Good day, class. I wanted to go over something real quickly for you. Determining adverse impact, a quick walkthrough through activity 3.2, and reviewing some of the responses. I wanted to go ahead and walk through some of the steps more clearly here. All right, first, during this activity, you were given some information, so let's go over this real quickly. For several years, Dexter's Knife Company required that all employees hired for quality control positions in their production facility in Miami have at least 2 years of college. The company's justification for this requirement is that because their cashiers must add prices in their head, they need to be educated, even though they are the only production facility with this requirement. They are able to attract many applicants because they pay $3 an hour more than any other manufacturer. Valerie Casillo applied for the job with Dexter's and was not hired because she had never attended college. Ms. Casillo, a Hispanic woman, filed charges of discrimination with the EEOC. On the basis of the facts stated above, as well as the data below, will the EEOC investigation reveal adverse impact on the basis of either sex or race? Assume that any applicant with 2 or more years of college was hired. So for this particular walkthrough, we're going to just focus on sex for this particular case, sex or race. So remember, these are 2 of the protected groups. So you have to be particularly cautious about types of procedures, policies, and regulations that may adversely impact these protected groups. So here we go. So this is part of the information that you received for your activity in determining adverse impact. So you have a table here with applicants listed on the left, followed by some other information. So let's walk through this real quickly and highlight some of the key items. Please note over here, the table to the right is a chart that I usually construct for this type of activity. First, this represents all the individuals that are going to be hired. So remember, for this activity, we're going to say anyone with 2 or more years will be hired. And then the 2 things that we want to look at in order to determine adverse impact are going to be sex and ethnicity. For this activity, we'll be focusing just on sex. So what that leads us to is the following. We need to count through all the males who applied for a position. Once we do that, all the males who applied for a position, the number should be 25. Then we do the same thing for females. We count through all the females that applied for a position. The number there should be 5. Then we want to look at all the individuals that were hired. So we want to look at the males that were hired. Remember, the key determining factor here will be number of years of college, 2 or more years. So the number hired in the males category will be 17. For females, there will be 2 that will be hired. Then what we want to do is we want to come up with the selection ratios. We want to calculate selection ratios. We do that by dividing 17 by 25. That gets us 0.68, a selection ratio of 0.68 for males. Then we'll do the same thing for females. We do 2 divided by 5, and we get 0.40. So we now have a selection rate for males, 0.68, and selection rate for females, 0.40. Now we're going to use the 4/5 rule. Remember, this is the rule of thumb that the majority and minority, they must have a relationship of at least 80%. So we want to see if there's anything less than 80%, then we'll have ourselves an issue. So what we do next is we calculate using the 4/5 rule, 0.40 divided by 0.68, and that gets us 0.59. 0.59 is less than 0.80. Therefore, in this particular example, we have adverse impact. That's simply the way you do it. So the key thing that you need to be looking for here is who's going to be selected. And that's what the first block here tells us, 2 or more years. Then we're going to count up how many people applied of male category, how many people applied of the female category. And of those categories, how many people were hired? 17 out of the 25, and 2 out of the 5. We're able to determine the selection ratio. And then from those selection ratios, we compare them to see how do they compare to the 4/5 rule. That's how you determine your adverse impact.